This right here is your one-stop shop for familiars in D&D because, let's be honest, in 5e, it needs some work. As it stands, the fantasy of familiars stops at a list of beasts, rats, dogs, cats, ravens, snakes, and similar creatures. It's just one spell, and you can never improve or level up beside your faithful companion. So when it comes to really feeling the fantasy of magical pets, we can do better than that. Hello Acolytes, welcome to the Cleric Corner. My name is Riker, and here we talk about all things Dungeons & Dragons, tapping into our higher powers to create worlds more unique and stories more impactful. This video is sponsored by none other than Zargoth's Tome of Familiars, but also Peculiar Discoveries and Battle Zoo Eldamon. With finding your perfect familiars and improvements to them, we will be exploring each one of these as well as other things that you can do in 5th edition that you may be missing. Each have been gracious enough to send me free copies to review for you. So if you would like copies yourselves, you can check them all out through the links in the description. Now for those of you who don't know, the Find Familiar spell allows you to summon a very low challenge rating beast from the magic of the Fae, Hell, or Heaven. It acts independently of you but cannot attack. You can then use it for both utility and casting spells through them as if you were in that space. There are currently 5 different ways to get a familiar in the official D&D 5th edition, most common being the Wizard class or another subclass with the Wizard spell list, the second being the Magic Initiate feat where you can pick some spells up, the third is the Druid class using the new rules in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything using your wild shape to get one, the fourth is making the Pact of the Chain as a Warlock, which also gives you access to an Imp, Pseudo-Dragon, Quasit, and Sprite familiars, which in this case you actually get to attack with. Then the final way is taking the Strixhaven Mascot feat if you meet the prerequisites, giving you access to a statue, air elemental, flying inkblot, large grub, and a fractal beast. And honestly, it's a fantastic extension to just the simple beasts that were listed, but still so much potential not used for this niche of fantasy. So, tip number 1, full access. Now for balancing reasons, I know why it's limited to a list, but that is more revealing on the challenge rating than anything else, being not fleshed out. In the many years that I have played D&D, I see that only being able to pick from a limited list will not fit every fantasy or give us the unique options that we really want. So I say let the DM decide what is broken and what isn't, and have any CR creature or monster open to use as a familiar, even limiting it to just the one that they can summon if you don't want them to summon anything at any time. Now this might already be something that you do at the table because it's kind of like, yeah, duh, if you have one CR 0 creature, then you can just have a different one. But for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, it's giving access to creatures like the Awakened Shrub, a Chewinga, Cranium Rat, Crawling Claw, Lemur, a Space Guppy, or even CR 1/8 creatures like a Briganock, a Boggle, a Grimishka, a Horde Scarab, Sturge, Displacer, Beast Kitten, a Flumph, a Twigblight, a Yeti Tyke, or a Monodrone. So many creatures to interact with on an intelligent and non-intelligence basis, which leads us to our next tip. Tip number 2, add more variety. Here is where I want to highlight Zargoth's Tome of Familiars specifically, because it was actually surprising how many people commented on my previous videos telling me to check this one out. And I agree, it definitely fits the flavor of this channel. Because as it stands, it is such a shame that we have beast-shaped animal companions, but they are actually Fae, Fiend, or Celestial in typing. But why not just have creatures that resemble those origins instead of just regular animals? So not only do Zargoth's Tome have the Alluring Devil and the Thieving Devil for more interesting fiend-like familiars, but also a Fernwolf or a Nettleboar with the plant typing. With the plant typing being something that we haven't had before as a familiar. Need an actual Fae? You have the Blink Dog Pup. A Monstrosity, you have the Pygmy Watcher or Mimic Spawn. An Elemental, you have the Phoenix Fledgling. A Construct, a Bronzeback Armadillo or Animated Armor. You need an Undead? A Floating Skull. An Aberration, a Silent Lurker, and so much more. What impressed me the most with this is that some have additional features that add to this bond. The Aberration familiars act as symbiotic parasites, giving you things like swimming speed, a bonus to grappling, or a bony natural weapon. As another surprising take on the familiar system, Zargoth's Tome also gives us alchemical familiars. One that you can just grow in a test tube. What happens when you drink a pickled beholder familiar or throw a bottle of green ooze? Which brings us to our next tip. Tip number 3, allow for growth. Again, instead of your familiars being the same from level 1 to level 20, why not add avenues for the creature to level up with your character? Especially if they have roleplay influence to the story or backstory. Something to really give the player as a reward if they really focus on this element of the game. Fortunately, Zargoth's Tome gives us options right from the start with a racial option of the Soulbound. So right from level 1, you can start this bond with another creature that also gives them a hit point boost to stay fighting. At higher levels, you can then take feats that allow more variety and power level to your soulbound creature, including higher challenge rating creatures that you can have as companions, double dice on attacks, bonus to armor classes and other rolls, and even increasing a size category. You can even specialize with different types of features with other feats. With Tinker and Gearsmith, you can attune to your familiars, giving you up to 6 at a time, as well as using Tinker's tools to raise their armor class permanently. If you specialize in devils, you can learn thaumaturgy and the infernal language. And if you specialize in just the raw power of arcane energy, you can make your own spells awaken and become living familiars. In this way, you give yourself feats that power that bond between you and a creature. That is just one angle to go about it. So tip number 4, give the familiar feats. There are already dozens and dozens of feats in official D&D 5e. Take your Blink Dog Pup and give it the Mobile feat, or give your Poison Snake familiar the Skulker feat, or your Rabbit the Lucky feat. This could be either in exchange of one of your own feats that you use on the familiar if you use it often enough, or one that it gets on its own every other time its owner gets one, or a reward for training it for a certain amount of time. It would also make sense that with these creatures being from the other planes of existence, to have feats related to that magic. The Phoenix Fledgling getting Elemental Adept, for example, or the Fern Wolf getting Fey Touched. Just ask yourself, do they have capabilities to get proficient in a shield? Or would it help if they were a little bit more durable with hit points? Work with your DM to know how this relationship is handled and how this familiar can grow. For inspiration of this relationship, let's look at tip number 5. Use other media as inspiration. One of the most prominent on my mind, of course, is the Golden Compass, where familiars are literally the extended or external soul of an individual. Perhaps in your homebrew world, every character has a familiar and acts similarly. You can look into mythology like in Malaysia, where they keep ghosts in jars as familiars. Pokemon, of course, is a huge inspiration where familiars are abundant and easily tameable. Perhaps the players cannot summon a certain familiar until they tame it or capture it. Now, there was a legit Pokemon rule set in D&D, but I think with licensing and things, it got taken down. But anyways, a much better option might be an incredible recent Kickstarter, Battle Zoo Eldamon, for incredible rule sets of training and taming magical monsters. The creatures within are tailored for the ttrpg space of 5e, Pathfinder, and beyond, with roll tables for random encounters in the tall grass and 10 different creature types, each with a battle form and an evolved form. There will even be a whole Eldamon trainer class to specialize in, and an elemental avatar class that allows you to embody those powers of the Eldamon that you choose. This is the kind of familiar play that I want to see. Use this as inspiration for all the previous tips as well, adding variety, growth, and a plethora of companion options. Let it do the work for you, or use these things as inspiration for your own creatures. Pre-orders are up now, so go and ensure a copy. Now for tip number 6. Give it a backstory. Your familiars are part of this world too, especially if they are immortal spirits. They will have had a life before you and will have a life after you. Instead of an expendable spell that you use when you need a scout for a castle, how can you tie familiars more into the narrative? For this, I want to highlight another great supplement that I was given for this video, Peculiar Discoveries from Dreamplots, which gives us backstories, backgrounds, and quest hooks for your familiars. The one that I will use for this example is Axo the Seer, an axolotl that was previously a familiar to a warlock named Baladaz. However, in pursuit of capturing demonic power and exploit it, Baladaz was captured and enslaved by a demon. Axo barely escaped with its life, but was cursed to never be able to speak until it slept. But also, if Axo falls asleep, then there is a chance that a demon can possess it too. So though it's always tired, Axo always tries to prove that it is more than just an amphibian. If you started with Axo as a companion or found it later in the campaign, it might give the players a quest to go find and free its former master. In return, they will offer a blessing to the party. Inspire your own familiars either as NPCs or player companions in a similar way. With Axo's Adventure also synopsized in the supplement and hundreds of new magic items to complement your quests, it is an excellent grab for your table. Link also in the description below. So when it comes to familiars in D&D, find what best fits you and your table. Celebrate the bonds that you make with magical creatures of your world instead of treating them as disposable tools and an afterthought. I just hope that I made all of these other options more familiar. Comment below and tell me about your familiars and how they impacted your games. If you want to check out other videos and ways to improve other elements of the game, check out these videos here. But in the meantime, go out there and spread the good word of D&D and make the world a better place, both on and off the table. See you in the next one.